The New York Rangers are going to have a massive decision to make upcoming with Artemi Panarin as he is entering, of course, the final season of his current contract. And with the 2026 UFA class getting pretty thin near the top with many superstars like, of course, Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov, Kyle Connor, now Jack Eichel, and even one of the top left-handed defensemen that would have potentially become available in Matthias Ekholm has now also signed an extension with the Oilers as well. So this free agent class was once looking to be a really phenomenal one with a lot of potential superstars maybe hitting the market, and not too surprisingly, of course, we have started to see a lot of these guys sign an extension, and it did seem like once one of them signed a big deal, of course, it started with Kaprizov, then we saw the McDavid deal happen, and then the other ones kind of followed suit after that. So the Rangers are going to have a pretty massive decision to make here upcoming, as right now Panarin is the top free agent left available. There are some other pretty good players like a Martin Necas, Adrian Kempe, Alex Tuch, Nick Schmaltz. There's some other pretty solid players, but they aren't near the level of a guy like Panarin really. And Martin Necas isn't too far off that, but even then, he will more than likely end up probably signing an extension with the Avs, as they, of course, ended up letting Rantanen walk, and I can't imagine they're going to let a guy like Martin Necas walk. So it's not looking very likely here that the Rangers are going to be able to go out there and, just simply sign a free agent kind of replacement there for Panarin in this upcoming free agent class that is actually on his level. So that's where this team really is going to have to make that massive decision. Do they want to go out there and give him exactly what he wants, which is probably a raise? He's probably looking at a deal with a higher cap hit than what he's getting right now, which of course is $11.6425 million per season. And if he wants more than that, are the Rangers willing to give him that? That is a big question. And how many years is that deal? Because, Panarin right now is not a very young player. He is currently 33 years old. So how many years does he want, and how much of a raise does he potentially want as well? And I'm not exactly sure how much he wants, of course, but there is some rumors and kind of talk from a pretty reputable source there, of course, Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet, as he talked about the Rangers and, Panarin kind of having talks earlier on there, and apparently the Rangers kind of offered a sort of more team-friendly deal there earlier on this summer, and Panarin ended up declining. So this is what they ended up having to say. I understand at some point in the offseason, the Rangers had that kind of conceptual conversation with Panarin. Is there a way you could do for the Rangers what Kopitar did for the Kings? Friedman said, obviously, at this point in time, it hasn't happened. I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, but I do know the two sides had the conversation, and obviously, at this point, Panarin is unsigned. So what Friedman was talking about is how kind of Kopitar ended up signing a 2-year deal with about like a $7 million cap hit, I believe it was. So it's a bit of a team-friendly deal sort of thing, right, to stay with the Kings there to try and, of course, help them win. And, of course, now Kopitar is retiring, but this was a few years ago now. So for Panarin to obviously be offered that kind of more team-friendly deal and have declined that kind of says that, he's in his right to, but he's looking to get paid, obviously. He's seeing what these other superstar guys are getting now. Guys like, even the guys that just signed one, like Mitch Martin or Rantanen, those guys got paid, but there's other guys, of course, that are getting paid right now with his kind of potential, 2026 UFA class. A lot of those guys, of course, are now signing guys like McDavid, Kaprizov, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel. A lot of those top guys now have obviously signed their big deals, and, Martin Necas, Alex Tuch, those guys very well might be next. So that's where the Rangers are going to have to make that big decision there. Do they want to go out and give, the 33-year-old Artemi Panarin, who, of course, is an absolute superstar for this team, but is getting up there a bit in age, do they want to go out there and give him a massive deal? I don't know exactly what Panarin's looking for and whether or not he's looking for something really crazy or something. I have no idea exactly what he'd be looking for. And really and truly, we don't know whether or not, I guess the Rangers have, had some more kind of conversations on a longer term deal as of right now. But they're definitely going to have to start kind of talking to him and figuring things out, because this team is not in a spot where they can head into next offseason with him being unsigned. If that happens, this team's in a pretty rough spot potentially, where they might be forced to overpay for him or for some other free agents, or they might be forced into a bit of a kind of rough trade potentially to try and fill that spot with some type of another player. So that's where this team kind of has to make a decision. And if this Rangers team is not in a spot around the deadline, let's say, where, they're in a playoff spot or right around there, or they're still having massive questions with Panarin, it might be right to look to trade him. And obviously, he's got the no trade clause and stuff, so that would make things a little interesting. But at the end of the day, the Rangers just have to figure things out, and hopefully, ideally, they end up signing him to a pretty reasonable deal. This team ends up, kicking things in gear and gets on track. They end up, I'll start scoring, of course, after getting shut out in the first game there. They end up having a great season, make playoffs, go on a bit of a run. That's the ideal situation, and they keep Panarin, and they go into the next couple of years, and they're being a contender. That's the ideal scenario. But if they can't end up finding an agreement on a deal, this doesn't really put the Rangers in a very good spot because, like I said, even if they are able to, I guess, trade him away, you're not going to get crazy kind of value for him. You'd probably be able to get some pretty good value, but you're still trading away a superstar guy for what's more than likely, obviously not going to be another superstar coming back in return, or at least maybe not even like another kind of star caliber player. It might be a lot more kind of, asset wise, like picks and prospects instead of an actual real great player coming back potentially, right? Because, this would be Panarin with about less than half a regular season left there, of course, by the time you're trading him potentially at the deadline, and you're getting him for a playoff run. So that's great and all, but it's not like, unless you're getting a kind of extension done, beforehand, you're not going to get some crazy kind of value. So that's kind of the problem right now with the Rangers and Panarin. So that's why they really have to kind of figure things out as soon as possible, because I just don't know what direction they really have to go in if they don't end up re-signing him, because right now, you can't just go out there if you want to kind of move on from Panarin and just sign a kind of superstar guy to completely replace him. Now, most of those top guys, of course, have extended, and even the kind of rest of the top guys, like a Martin Necas, a Kempe, and Alex Tuch, it seems like they'll more than likely probably just end up signing extensions with their current teams as well, more than likely. So at that point there, maybe you're looking at a few guys to kind of, you add in like 2 or 3 really solid players that are kind of decent forwards, good forwards, that can maybe kind of add up to the cap hit of what Panarin would have gotten, and then you kind of roll with that and try and do what the kind of Leafs are almost doing there by kind of, losing Marner, but just kind of trying to kind of get other players internally and kind of a few other players from outside just kind of come in there and help replace that. Maybe you could try and do that, but really and truly, I just don't think this Rangers team is built like that. Of course, they have other superstars like Matthews and Nylander there to get the offense going. The Rangers can't really do that, so that's kind of the big problem right now. And via trade, I just can't really think of one superstar that is out there that is really available that could be anywhere close to as good as a guy like Panarin has been offensively for this Rangers team. Obviously, I'm not saying Panarin is like some top 5 guy in the league right now, but really and truly, what trade candidate out there is realistically available that could actually be up for trade that the Rangers could get and could be that kind of over a point per game caliber guy, anywhere close to 100 points or even like 90 points. I can't really think of a great target available right now that could be, any good of a replacement for a guy like Panarin. So honestly, I'm not really sure what this team's plan could possibly be if they don't bring back Panarin at this point there. I'm kind of wondering what the contract might look like if, he does end up just getting a normal kind of contract there that's not a team-friendly one. Obviously, after seeing the deals that Edmonton got there with a guy like Matthias Ekholm getting a $4 million cap hit, and then McDavid signing his 2-year deal with a, of course, $12.5 million cap hit, $16.5 million total for the next, 2 years, of course, with them combined. And like Ekholm's deal is a little longer, of course. But the point being, that's just a couple crazy low deals there for the Oilers. And obviously, I just would love to see that happen for the Rangers. But unfortunately, it does not seem like that's probably going to happen there with Panarin. I know I had some kind of hope for that and kind of thought that maybe it would happen there. I know some other Rangers fans did as well, but it doesn't seem like that's probably going to happen there. It seems like he wants to get paid, and that's fair. It makes sense. I mean, he sees what other guys are getting paid there. Of course, he wants to get a lot of money as well. He's a great player. He's deserving of it, but it would obviously be very beneficial for this Rangers team to have a guy like Panarin taking a bit of a discount, but it does seem like he's going to get a big deal, and it's probably going to be a bit of a raise. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be signing for anything less than what his current contract or kind of cap hit is. Obviously, it's not going to be nearly as long or kind of total money wise, but it'll probably be at least like about like 3-year deal, maybe with like a maybe $12 million cap. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something right around there. Obviously, a guy like McDavid got 12 and a half, but you can't really compare it to that because McDavid took a team-friendly discount clearly to stay with Edmonton because he wants to win there. He's made it pretty clear on that. So when you take a look at a guy like Kaprizov getting, his massive cap hit, you take a look at what guys like Eichel and Kyle Connor have gotten there. Panarin on a shorter term kind of, 3-year deal with about kind of $12 million cap, but something around there, I think does make a lot of sense for this market with where things are at. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and also, of course, definitely don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post a video every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on what do you kind of want to see happen with Panarin there? Do you want to see him, come back on a team-friendly deal? Obviously, that would be ideal, but it doesn't seem likely. What kind of a contract do you think he might end up kind of signing? What targets would you want to see them go after via a trade or in free agency to possibly try and replace him if they end up not bringing him back? Let me know your thoughts on this whole situation. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.